I'm going for a live. Please, everybody, mute yourself. Yeah, start. Safika, ma'am, over to you.
Good evening to all. A new day means a fresh start and the new opportunities. So let's greet the day with the open arms. Thus, get ready to remember the Almighty, the Creator of whole universe. Now let's start the prayer. Knowledge, and the Guru is the Shiva who destroys the darkness of ignorance. I salute such a great Guru. Let's begin today's program with our school song.
जीने भी दो, यही है नारा। जीवन सबका बने आदर्श जीवन सबका सुर में आना सुर में आना सुर में आकर बना दो सुराना प्रकृति भी लय में चलती है धरती भी लय में गति है प्रकृति भी लय में चलती है धरती की भी लय में गति है सूरज चंदा मेरी नियम है सूरज चंदा मेरी नियम है अनुशासन ही मनुज धर्म है अनुशासन ही मनुज धर्म है सत्यम शांति धर्म अहिंसा प्रेम को अपना लक्ष्य बना दो सत्यम शांति धर्म अहिंसा प्रेम को अपना लक्ष्य बना दो देशभक्ति है महातपस्या देशभक्ति है महातपस्या आग को दिल में तुरंत जला दो तुरंत जला दो तुरंत जला दो तुरंत जला दो माता पिता है साक्षात भगवान गुरुजनों को दो सम्मान माता पिता है साक्षात भगवान गुरुजनों को दो सम्मान विद्या पाकर जगा दो ज्ञान फर्ज निभा कर दो बलिदान विद्या पाकर जगा दो ज्ञान फर्ज निभा कर दो बलिदान विद्यालय वाणी का मंदिर विद्यादान होता अंदर विद्यालय वाणी का मंदिर विद्यादान होता अंदर शांत रहे शांत रहे गगन और सागर खिले रहे विकसित मन सुंदर शांत रहे गगन और सागर खिले रहे विकसित मन सुंदर सुर में आना सुर में आना सुर में आकर बना दो सुराना सुर में आना वचन हमारा बनेंगे जीवन सब उजियारा कभी न भूले वचन हमारा बनेंगे जीवन सब उजियारा सुराना स्कूल है सबसे प्यारा सुराना स्कूल है सबसे प्यारा ठुकराना मत अपना नारा सुराना स्कूल है सबसे प्यारा ठुकराना मत अपना नारा
our Principal Sir, Mr. Rosario, for the welcome address.
Namaste. Good evening, everyone, and happy Teachers' Day to all my teachers. And a hearty welcome to our guest, Dr. Usha Avastre, Speaker of the Day, our Honorable Secretary, Dr. Shri Anand Suranaji, beloved Academic Director, Srimati Jayanti Balachandra, my dear teachers, parents, and my dear students. Welcome everyone to this webinar. Teachers are parents to children when needed. They render us light and lead us through the pathway of life. They seek nothing but respect in return to their persistent efforts. They give the best. Teachers are idols. They inspire us every day and make us strive towards the route of success. They equip us with power of knowledge and propel us with endless wisdom to become better citizens of future. And continuous developing and changing thoughts throughout the life and rewiring your brain might sound pretty complicated, but it's absolutely something you can do at home. But how? So today's webinar will throw light on that. Can you change your brain at any age? So with this webinar, I think we can make a lot of doubts clear and understand ourselves. On that note, now I call on Ms. Shiny to introduce our chief guest of the day, Dr. Usha Avastre. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Teachers have three loves: love of learning, love of learners, and the love to bring the first two loves together. Good afternoon to all of you and a very happy Teachers' Day. E-learning has been on rise during the pandemic and is being heralded as the future of education. At this time, many reports states that students and teachers are experiencing mild to extreme stress, which is detrimental to learning. To know how to combat it and to know is it possible for the brain to change at any age, we have an eminent personality with us today. She is a mentor, advisor, social activist, and the most successful neuroscientist. It is a great honor to pronounce that we are joined by Dr. Usha Avastre, founder of Yogashema Rehabilitation and Wellness Center, a non-profitable organization enhancing quality of life based on recent advances in neuroscience and positive psychology. Dr. Usha Avastre, formerly a resident of United States, worked for Temple University School of Medicine, Philadelphia for 17 years. Then she became the clinical research project coordinator at a Center for Parkinson's disease and movement disorder in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania Hospital. After 30 years, Dr. Usha Avastre came to India with an aim of bringing the latest scientific advances to the doorsteps of common people. She has worked with Dinabandhu, Children Home, Kamarajpuram, and continues to work with various NGOs. She conducts group meetings for various sections of society, and her workshops are based on the most recent advances in neuroscientific research and positive psychology. Dr. Usha Avastre programs have been telecasted in leading Kannada television channels, radio, and newspapers. She has published over 70 research papers and abstracts in reputed journals. On behalf of SJT Surana Jain Vidyalaya, I extend a warm welcome, ma'am. I hope today we teachers and students will be able to seek guidance from your thoughts. Thank you. Over to Dr. Usha Avastre. Ma'am, please.
Ma'am, can you please unmute yourself? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. My dear students, dear teachers, parents, and management, it just gives me great pleasure to be sharing my passion about the recent advances in neuroscience research with you all, specifically today, a special day. Yes, the title itself is very intriguing. Can you change your brain And can you change your brain at any age? Let us see how we can do this. What does it mean to change the brain? And why? Why should we change the brain at all? So let me start sharing. Okay. You're able to see, right?
Yes, ma'am.
For the past 400 years, the most important neuroscience breakthrough is the discovery that the brain can change at any age. As I said, we will find out how does that brain change and why it should change at all. How does it matter? Because we cannot see the brain even if it changes. How do we know it changes? And what does it mean to change the brain? So first, let's go to the why of changing the brain. Why should we change the brain? If I ask a question to many people, do you want to change something in your life? Let us say I ask the students first, and they will definitely say, yeah, we want to change so that we can increase our memory power, the power to recall. We can increase our concentration and focusing. And if we ask the same thing with teachers, each teacher, I know how we are struggling to help develop love for learning with the students. If I can try and learn this is why I would like to change my life right now, is what you would say. And if I ask the parents the same question, they would say, I would like to learn how not to get stressed so that I can help my children not to get stressed while learning. And if I ask some professionals, they will say, oh, I would love to make some lifestyle changes so that I can develop a work-life balance. And if I ask anybody else, many others, they might come up with the answer, yes, I would like to improve my health and I would like to improve my interpersonal relationships with my family, my friends, my colleagues. And I would also like to alleviate or reduce some of the suffering. So these are all many different answers one might get if we ask that question. So how can we change our lives? The only way to make long-lasting changes in our lives is by changing our brain itself, by changing the very structure and function of the brain itself. So now we know, can we change our brain? And can we change the brain at any age? And my answer as a neuroscientist to this is an absolute and unequivocal yes, an affirmation to that, affirmative. So how can we change the brain? Because it is something that we cannot actually see. We know it exists. We know it is there. But how do we know if the brain changes at all, right? So this is where neuroscience has come to our rescue. And recently, you can recognize the pictures here, His Holiness Dalai Lama. He actually said that it is possible to change the brain itself. And then when asked how, he said, if you change your mind, in a particular way, in a willful way, in a conscious way, it is possible to change the brain. Not too many people agree to that, and especially the Western neuroscientists. They said, we don't think that is possible. If something happened to the brain, then the mind will change. However, if we change our mind, it's highly unlikely that we could change the brain, was that answer. Because at that time, a couple of decades back, they compared the brain to a computer. So the brain itself was compared to the hardware and the mind to the software. And they said, if we change the software on our laptops, do we think the hardware would change? So they just took that analogy and they said, oh no, it is not going to be possible. We don't think it is possible, but it's the other way around, it is possible. So Dalai Lama posed another challenge to them saying, look, there is so much of technology around. Use the technology, try it out, experiment. And if I am wrong, I am going to change the Buddhist texts. And if I am right, you guys have to change the scientific texts. And the Western neuroscientists took up the challenge, and to help them prove this, Dalai Lama sent many Buddhist monks to the West. And these Buddhist monks, and one of them you're seeing in the picture, his name is Matthew Ricard. He was named as the happiest man in the world. It came on the front cover magazine of Time magazine, actually. And he's a French molecular biologist turned into a Buddhist monk. Anyway, along with him, Dalai Lama sent many Buddhist monks of various hours of meditation experience. Anywhere from 5,000 hours of meditative experience to 10, 15, 25, 30,000 hours of meditative experience. Like you see here, their brains were scanned and the activity of the brain was compared to other people's brains wherein they had not done any meditation at all previously. So using the state-of-the-art technology at that time, like fMRI, we have heard about MRI in a similar manner. For research, we use what is called as functional MRI, wherein you can actually look at the activity of the brain, measure, evaluate the activity of the brain over a period of time, and longitudinal study can be done too. fMRI, SPECT scans, PET scans, such state-of-the-art technology was used to compare the meditative brains of the Buddhist monks to the non-meditative groups of many others. When they compared and evaluated, they were able to see some clear-cut changes in the brains of the Buddhist monks, especially in the region of the brain, what we call as higher center of the brain in simple English, which is the part of the brain that makes us human. Increased activity in such parts of the brain that makes us human, and in other regions of the brain wherein we share that part of the brain with animals, that is when that gets activated, there is a lot of negativity and stress that would happen. The activity in those regions of the brains were reduced. This clearly showed that if you change the brain, the mind in a particular way though, not in a flippant manner, saying that in the afternoon sometimes we feel like having a cup of coffee, other times we feel like having a cup of tea, and we can just change just like that, not in such a flippant manner. But if we change our minds in an organized, willful, rational ways and deliberate ways, if we can change our minds over a period of time, the very structure and function of the brain changes. And all of that is depicted here in this slide, wherein if you change your thoughts, you can change your brain. If you change your emotions and feelings, you can change your brain. If you change your perception towards the world, if you change your worldview, you will be able to change your very structure of the brain. If you change your mindset, you'll be able to change your brain. However, to make long-lasting changes in the brain, we need to change our experience. This whole process is called neuroplasticity. The same thing, if I can say in even simpler terms, just changing mind is not going to be enough. Even if it is done in a structured, deliberate ways, just changing mind is not going to be enough. Changing the brain structure and function is really important, along with changing our mind. And how can the structure and function of the brain change? By changing our habits, by changing our actions, by changing our behavior, and by changing our experience, we can have long-lasting changes in the very structure and function of the brain. So again, if I have to simplify even further, just having positive thoughts are not going to be enough. Those positive thoughts need to be followed by positive feelings. And again, just having positive thoughts and positive feelings are not going to be enough. Both those positive thoughts and positive feelings need to be followed by positive actions. This is the whole crux of neuroplasticity itself. Because even the term is so new, let's go dig deeper into what is this neuroplasticity. As we know, it is just change in the structure of the brain, right? And then so let us delve a little bit deeper into this and then see. Our brain is in a continual work of progress. It keeps on changing itself. The brain, whether we know it or not, it keeps on changing by itself. So the brain can rewire itself, and it gets rewired all the time, whether we know it or not. And the environment plays a very crucial role in influencing this rewiring of the brain, or the plasticity of the brain. And this neuroplasticity has both good and bad effects. Because as soon as we hear these things, the first thing that comes to our mind, usually neuroplasticity is related with positive changes in the brain and positive changes in the life. However, even though we can use neuroplasticity to make positive changes in our lives, there is a dark side to it also. It can produce ill effects too. And there are many different ways how neuroplasticity can produce ill effects or bad effects, the dark side of neuroplasticity also. So let us look at this. both good effects and bad effects of neuroplasticity and see how understanding of this can help us to implement this process of neuroplasticity in our day-to-day lives. So the power of neuroplasticity. First, the good effects of neuroplasticity. So as I said earlier, our ability of the brain to remold itself, to restructure itself, to reshape itself at the molecular level, at the biochemical level, at the neuronal level, is what is neuroplasticity is all about. And that is based on our everyday experience. And not only just experience, our repeated behaviors. Our repeated behaviors at the action level and our repeated behaviors at the thought level too. That repeated habits at the thought level also has an influence on the plasticity of the brain. And neuroplasticity has enabled many people to recover from stroke, to recover from traumatic brain injuries, and even some birth abnormalities. And a lot of research in neuroscience has shown to improve symptoms of autism, ADD, ADHD, and even learning disabilities. And not only that, a lot of research has been done to show that we can pull ourselves out of depression, out of anxiety, and even addictions for that matter, and also to reverse what we call it as obsessive, compulsive patterns of our thinking and our actions. So this is the good aspect of neuroplasticity, that it is able to improve symptoms of many mental health conditions, and if not cure them. The other aspect of neuroplasticity, the ill effects of neuroplasticity comes in many different ways. It could be the decline of brain functioning over a period of time, especially as we age, or developing certain unwanted, unfavorable habits. These are some of the examples for ill effects of neuroplasticity. And the brain and the mind is highly vulnerable to both external influence and also internal influence of especially our non-conscious or subconscious or unconscious thought patterns. We're going to see in a little while what I mean by that. And our experiences, our repetitive thought patterns, our repetitive actions, our repetitive behaviors, all of these can change the wiring of the brain itself in such a way that it can either help us in curing some of these or developing good habits, or it can hurt us, becoming cause of many mental health conditions. So a lot of research on neuroplasticity has been done to show that these bad habits or unfavorable habits, they have become ingrained in our brains. And also some of the valuable skills in people may get lost as people age, and especially after retirement if somebody is not as active. And again, because of the repetitive negative thought patterns and repetitive behaviors following that, many brain health conditions such as depression, anxiety, OCD, and addictions can be caused because of neuroplasticity if we are not aware of this. As I mentioned, one of the ways that the brain functioning can decline as we age. And we have heard this use it or lose it phenomena, or the same old pattern, same old pattern. We keep doing the same old thing, but we expect different results, which cannot happen. Anyway, just getting old is many a times what we tell either ourselves or when we look at our parents, grandparents and whatnot. Oh, they're just getting old. It's not just a phrase, but that just getting old is really nothing but neuroplasticity in action in a negative manner. And as people grow older, without knowing, they contributed to their own decline in brain functioning and the brain power by not challenging enough or by not using various different parts of the brain enough. So there would be a decline in the brain functioning. How that happens, especially soon after retirement or as people get older, or many a times, even if they're young, especially if one is a homemaker, if they have the same predictable routine and being in the same environment without any changes in their schedule, again, neuroplasticity occurs in the wrong direction, or the negative effects of neuroplasticity can happen if some of those habits are not favorable to us. So what is the solution for this, especially for brain decline? To become lifelong learners, to love whatever we learn. And it is good to be learning something new every day, irrespective of who we are, what age we are in. Along with that cognitive learning, again, increased physical activity in terms of physical exercise, could be aerobic exercise, walking, jogging, whatever it may be, and especially as people get older, the increased physical activity and becoming lifelong learners is the way to overcome this brain decline. So for all of these ill effects of neuroplasticity, again, neuroplasticity itself is the solution. This is the plastic paradox, as they say. Neuroplasticity can produce both good effects and ill effects. So the good news is, even though we might have had some unwanted, unfavorable habits, again, taking the advantage of that the brain can change at any age, that itself becomes the solution. Because neuroplasticity is reversible. And the brain can improve, the brain can change its function, its structure, and thereby its function at any age. And again, recent advances in neuroscience research on neuroplasticity has shown that the many aspects of brain power and intelligence and the powers of mind, like our willpower, our focusing power, our defocusing power, and our power to recall, our willpower, our want power, all of this can be improved by intense and appropriately targeted behavioral training. The key to that is practice, 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 repetition, repetition, and repetition. Now, even after knowing all of this, it is not that easy for us to actually change the brain. because we also need to understand why is it that we cannot so easily change the brain. Even though it is simple, it is not that easy, because many of us do not understand what is it that is preventing us to be able to change our brains, to get rid of some of the unwanted, unfavorable habits, and to be able to make newer habits, the wanted and good habits. What is it that is preventing us? If we can understand this aspect, then to make changes in our life itself by changing our brain, it is going to be possible much more easily. So what is it that is preventing us to be able to change our brains easily at any age? Is this, what we call it as negativity bias. This, because of this negativity bias, our negative thoughts, our negative emotions, negative feelings, negative perception, negative experience, whatever it may be, they actually get stuck to our mind and brain like Velcro. And there will be so many of positive things happening every day, but because of this negativity bias, the positive thoughts, positive emotions, positive feelings, positive perception, positive belief system, and some of the positive experiences get washed off of our mind, just like that non-stick material that we see in that non-stick pan that we use in the kitchen, that just like Teflon. This is a scientific fact, because I stress this as scientific because science is all about commonality, irrespective of the age, irrespective of culture, irrespective of socio-economic, education, religious backgrounds. Each and every one of us has this negativity bias that is innate within us. Whether somebody is a teacher or a student, a doctor or a patient, a professor or a farmer, a scientist or a sadhu, it does not matter. Everybody has this negativity bias. So much so, because those negative thoughts, they stick to our brain and mind much more than the positive ones. Those negative thoughts, they are termed as automatic negative thoughts. You can see the picture which represents the acronym for automatic negative thoughts. And just like in nature that you see many different types of ants, unlike what I have shown you in the slide. In the slide, you only see one type of ant. However, in nature, there are many different types of ants. Could be black ant, red ants, the tiny little ant, fire ant, termite. Similar to that, we also get many, many types of negative thoughts. And we don't have to do anything. We don't need to put any effort to be able to get these negative thoughts. That's why they are termed automatic or spontaneous. It just happens by itself. So much so, let's just spend the next few minutes understanding the significance of this getting rid of these or overcoming these negative thoughts, especially the automatic negative thoughts. And then we will be convinced why many a times it is so hard for us to form new habits and to get rid of some old unwanted habits. But little bit more about ants to begin with. So whenever I talk about ants now, whenever I use the word ants, I'm representing that as automatic negative thoughts. So when these ants, when they go unchecked, unnoticed in our mind, these ants affect our health. They affect our health because each thought releases a chemical, and these negative thoughts release negative chemicals which get distributed throughout the body and over a period of time has ill effects on our health. So those unchecked, unnoticed ants, they affect our health. They affect our happiness because it comes in the way of our interpersonal relationships. It affects our learning. It affects our absorption. It affects our memory power. It affects our focusing power. It affects our entire life itself. I would like to spend 2 more minutes on this slide, which is the crucial slide for us to understand why do we need to overcome these ants so as to be able to change our brain at any age for that matter. Again, when these ants, automatic negative thoughts, are a few too many in number and they go unchecked, unexamined, and what happens to us during those times? Our mind keeps going like a pendulum between our past and our future. When that happens, we look at the past with regret and we look at the future with anxiety and pessimism. And whatever is happening at that time, and the present moment, we are never ever satisfied with that. However, just let us go a tad deeper into this and see. Yeah, our mind can go back and forth like a pendulum between past and future, but is there something like past? Is there something like future? A profound question. I'm not talking at the level of, oh, we cannot learn from the past, nor from the angle of, oh, we cannot plan for the future. No, not from that angle. Past and future exist only as mental constructs. I'm going to make an English statement which does not make sense if you just look at it as an English statement, but bear with me. See, when past was happening, when yesterday was happening, yesterday was today. Tomorrow hasn't happened yet, but when tomorrow is going to happen, when it happens, it will be today. What I'm trying to say is that past and future is only at the level of the mind, at the level of thoughts, at the level of feelings, at the level of memories. But the level of experience, we can only do things in the present moment. We can think about doing in the future, or we can think about what we have done in the past. Yes, that is there. In that sense, there is past and future. But when we have to be doing things, because it's extremely important to be focusing on doing, because we just said Just having positive thoughts are not enough. Positive feelings are not enough to make long-lasting changes in the brain and long-lasting changes in our lives. We need to be doing positive actions, and we need to have positive experiences. In other words, the doing part is the most important, and the only time we can do things is only in the present moment, here and now and here. It's extremely profound. This is what was said in our scriptures ages back in a different way. But because of the recent advances in neuroscience research, we are able to use scientific terminology and bring this profound truth in a manner which is common for everybody and anybody, including youngsters, so that all we need to do is to be focusing on one moment at a time, a single moment, which is the present moment, which is here, which is now. If we can understand this, if we can cognize this, if we can accept this beyond any doubt, with utmost conviction, then we are on the road to be able to make long-lasting changes in our lives by changing our very structure and function of the brain at any age. Now, coming back to some more mundane excuses that we give because of this negativity bias that we have. These we think are the reasons we are giving ourselves or we give others. However, these are not just reasons, but excuses. When we cannot do something, and especially as teachers, you have heard this from students, and as parents, you have heard this from your children, saying, I cannot do something because I couldn't do it, or because this is the way I am, because I don't like that subject, because I cannot understand that subject, I don't like it, I don't want to study, and I can't help it, I'm born like this. And many of us have heard from our mothers that you're just like your grandfather, you're so short-tempered. And we start believing it. And we keep giving that as a reason or an excuse. And especially now, because of the COVID times, we say, I wasn't like this before. Because of the circumstances now, I'm a little bit more negative than ever before. And if we cannot give any reason, and then we blame it on our genes, like I said earlier, or else we easily give a reason, I'm like this because of somebody else. It could be a parent, it could be a mom, it could be a teacher, it could be a friend, it could be a stranger too. These are all the excuses that we give because of the negativity bias that we have. And what are the consequences of those excuses that we give ourselves? First and foremost is that it is not possible for us to change easily. And we shun away from responsibilities, and we are not as proactive as we would like to be. And it becomes hard to learn newer subjects and newer things. And many of the students can relate to this, especially when it is a subject that is hard. What do the students do? They try and ignore that subject. They try and avoid studying. However, it is the contrary that is expected. If it's something hard, we need to be able to spend more time on that rather than less time. So ultimately, we cannot be what we want to be. And so because of this, we are less compassionate, less kind, less loving to our own loved ones. And we are not as happy and successful as we would like to be. But the saving grace is that there is no magic pill that comes in a colored bottle, even though for some of us, we think it is a saving grace, but for many of the people think if it had come in terms of medicine, we could pop some pill and then get rid of this negativity. No, there is no magic pill to get rid of this negativity. It is only through knowledge, only by being aware can we get rid of it. And the saving grace for all of this is most of our automatic negative thoughts are false. And we could just look at these ants, they've become a habit and they are hardwired into our brains. That is what we call it as a habit. It may be a bad brain habit, but it is possible to change. That is what we need to really understand. Whatever that habit may be, whatever negative habit we may be having, it is possible to change. So just say that it's just a bad habit, I want to get rid of it. Just saying that will help. Because most of the ants are false. Just be aware of the negative thoughts. And even though it comes in your own mind, don't believe them, because most of the automatic negative thoughts are false. At the action level, these automatic negative thoughts result in procrastination. So with all of this, how do we overcome these ants? This is the question. This is where our concept of neurosculpting comes into the picture. What do we see here? A sculptor, right? Sculpting out, let's say, a Hanumanji. What does a sculptor do? He does not take anything from outside to create his masterpiece. He has a huge, big boulder in front of him, and he sees his masterpiece, whatever it may be, like it is Hanumanji here. He sees his masterpiece already in that big, huge boulder. And whatever is not his masterpiece, he chips off to create his own masterpiece. This is what a sculptor does. Unlike a painter, wherein he needs some paint to be able to create a masterpiece, whereas a sculptor removes all the unwanted or all the parts of the stone that don't belong to the masterpiece that he has already in mind. He chips it off to create that masterpiece. In a similar manner, we can all be the sculptors of our own life and create our own destiny. We can be the neurosculptors of our own lives. Unlike in the sculptor that you saw in the previous slide, we don't need any external boulder. We don't even need those chisels and hammers and external instruments. Our brain is the marble. Our brain is the huge stone. We are the sculptors. And the sculpture, whatever we remove, all these negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative perception, negative belief system, all those negative things that are pulling us down, that are not allowing us to realize our innate potential. Once we start removing those things, then a beautiful sculpture, the brain itself, can change at the structural level, at the cellular level, at the molecular level, at the biochemical level, to be able to create the future that we want for ourselves. So I said, we don't need external tools. So what are the tools that we need? Sorry about that. The tools that we already have are nothing but the powers of our mind. Give me a minute. What you see, those tools are nothing but the powers of our conscious mind. We have two types of mind, the conscious mind and the non-conscious, or popularly called as subconscious mind. But these tools that we see here, whether it may be our willpower, our discerning power, our self-awareness, to be able to recognize those negative thoughts when we get them, and the power to choose, what we call as free will. These are the powers of our conscious mind, and using these tools, we can chip out all the unwanted negative thoughts and feelings so as to create our own future. So that we can become neurosculptors of our lives. And if I need to mention few more of those tools, the neuroplasticity tools or neurosculpting tools, because that whole process of chipping away is nothing but neuroplasticity. There are many other tools. I'm just going to mention and leave it at that, and I can take it up during the Q&A if you have any questions. As I already mentioned earlier, both physical activity, increased physical activity, and cognitive activity, to be able to learn constantly, to become lifelong learners, and to love to learn. And then to convert our negative emotions and feelings to healing emotions and feelings. Extremely important. As much as our physical health is important, our emotional health is even more important, and also which has a direct effect on our interpersonal relationships. For that, there are many different tools and techniques. How do we convert those afflictive, negative emotions to positive and healing emotions, either by way of being mindful or using various different forms of cognitive behavior training or cognitive behavior therapy. And certainly to develop an attitude of gratitude towards anything and everything. Because again, recent research has shown that people who have an attitude of gratitude are much happier than otherwise. We used to think the conventional wisdom used to be those who are happy are more grateful. However, new research has shown it is the other way around. People who are more grateful are happier. And again, developing lifelong learning, developing love for learning is the most important neuroplasticity tool or rewiring tool for the brain as such. And if I would like to conclude my talk by giving tribute to a couple of people, especially on this day, related to learning itself. And of course, Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan's quote is so apt for today. A life of joy and happiness is possible only on the basis of knowledge and science. The combination of science and spirituality, knowledge, I'm going to take it up, all different types of knowledge until that ultimate knowledge. So the confluence of science and spirituality, the confluence of old wisdom along with the new scientific knowledge, combining this is what makes a life full of joy, zest, and vigor. Also, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, as long as I live, so long do I learn. What better way to end than this? Let us all become lifelong learners, and let us all love to learn. Does not matter what age it may be, as long as we are learning, we are able to change our brain so that we can change our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your presence, and gentle words are the source of encouragement for all of us. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now I would like to...
Yes, if you have any question, ma'am, actually, we have some question. One of the teacher, Rajalakshmi ma'am, asked, normally brain cells gets decreased with age. Will this affect neuroplasticity, ma'am?
That is true. The brain cells do decrease over age, or even the brain size decreases much more than just the brain cells. But we have so many number of brain cells, we don't need to worry about losing several thousands of brain cells as we age. If I just have to give you an example, if we start counting each brain cell that we have, let's say it will take 1 second to count one brain cell, right? Just we can count. If it takes 1 second to count one brain cell, literally it will take over 3,100 years to count all the brain cells that we have. I know, looking at the expression on your face, if I were not to be a neuroscientist, it would be really, really hard for you all to comprehend this and to accept and believe this. Mind you, I'm only talking about individual cells. And the wiring, changing the brain, it's not just at an individual level, it is with the connections, neuronal connections, synaptic connections. That is what we call that as wiring. It's not just changing it in one particular cell. A series of cells, those neuronal circuits as we call them, which comprises of neuronal cells, which comprises of supporting cells, which comprises of vascular cells, all different types of cells which go into wiring. All of that will change. And the wiring of brain itself is different in different regions of the brain. So even if we lose few cells here and there. Those few are like in thousands or hundreds of thousands. Even then, we don't need to worry as much.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Teachers, can you have any questions to ma'am?
And one of the reasons is, I just want to add one more thing. Even though we lose some of the cells, other regions of the brain, other cells, neighboring cells, close by cells, they can take up the function of the brain. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Teachers, if you have any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, one by one.
Shiny here.
Yes, Shiny ma'am.
Ma'am, when I was a student, I remember reading in one of the journals which said like the number of convolutions in your brain determines your intelligence. How far it is true, ma'am? Because I used to give this excuse to my parents saying like I have less convolutions, I cannot, aim for sentence. So how far it is true, and how can we, does it have real impact on learning?
This is one of the old theories that was there many decades back. Now that does not even matter about just the outer way, how the brain looks. We can actually keep increasing the connections of different cells and making new neuronal connections, making new neuronal circuits is what is important, much more than just the looks, the external surface of the brain. Yes, that is one of the theories, but we will never know what it is. Let us not give that as a reason or an excuse. But once we have that love for learning, we can be learning at any age. We can keep on improving our intelligence, our not just the IQ, but also the EQ. We can keep on improving to become more compassionate, more empathetic, more kind, and whatnot.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. And one more question. How does neuroplasticity induce intelligence? Induce intelligence?
Depending on the contents of what we read, contents of our experience. So as simple as that. If we need to become really strong in physics, we need to be studying physics a whole lot more too, right?
Yes.
And if we keep on reading, let us say Sanskrit, and try, that won't help us in improving physics. As simple as that, whatever it is. Intelligence also, it is not just about studying, it's not just about reading books, it's about comprehending and be able to understand, to put it into action. Any subject matter, we are able to absorb it more if we are able to try and experience at least those concepts, to be able to put it into practice. Experiential learning, as they say. Thank you.
And ma'am, one more question, and one of the teachers, Sujata ma'am, asked us, and can you suggest some exercise to keep our brain sharp and healthy?
Certainly. The first thing, first and foremost, is more of physical activity, exercise. We know there is so much research, recent research that has gone into it, especially in a school in US, wherein the students did a lot of physical activity over a period of time, and they would exercise even before getting into the exam. And then we know when we exercise, some of the chemicals, we know that endorphins are released. We have heard about that chemical, but we also know when we exercise on a regular basis, that other chemicals other than endorphins, it could be dopamine, it could be serotonin, and one of the newest chemical that has been identified is what is called as BDNF, brain derived neurotrophic factor, which is just like food for the brain, just like fertilizer for the plants. For the brain, it is like food. And that is one of the quickest ways. And not just the physical activity, but also learning something new every day and enjoy that learning. Learn not out of stress, but to enjoy learning is the way to improve. Thank you. Good question.
Thank you, ma'am. And one more question. Does the food habits have impact on brain function? The question was asked by Usha, ma'am.
Absolutely. We know again unequivocally that especially processed foods and sugary foods have such an effect. We can see that, we can right away feel that if we have a heavy breakfast with sweets and whatnot, it is going to be so hard to work because we feel drowsy. That is as simple as that. But apart from that, there are a lot more research happening to show a very close connection between our gut and the brain. Because one of the things they say now, gut, that is the digestive system, gut is the second brain. Because all the chemicals that are released in the brain are also released in the stomach. That is why we say butterflies in the stomach, when we, even that expression, and kids, they don't complain about headaches. Young kids complain about tummy ache whenever they are stressed. Whenever they are sad, they complain about tummy ache, because gut releases the very same chemicals that can be that are released in the brain also. And those chemicals absolutely have a great influence. And more studies, not just about food, even about fasting, which is one of the most important principles in naturopathy. Fasting itself is known to improve health. And fasting is known to improve what we call as autophagy, that is removal of dead cells in the body, and especially in the brain also. And some research is going on right now to look at whether fasting can, is it possible through fasting to not to get either Alzheimer's or dementia, or some of the proteins that are present in Alzheimer patients, like the amyloid protein. There is research that is going on whether fasting can decrease this protein. This protein, to put it simply, it is a sticky protein. This is where the brain cells, especially the neurons, they cling together because of this protein, the sticky protein that is present in Alzheimer's. So a lot of studies have been happening. And apart from that, the microbiome population in the gut, that is the bacteria, the microbacteria that are present in the gut, that also has a direct effect on the brain health itself. And we know that the bacteria or the microbiome in the gut is also directly related to the foods that we eat. Processed foods will take away the healthy microbiome population, and natural and non-sugary foods actually increase the microbiome population in our gut. Again, a great question, Usha. Very good one. These are all what I'm sharing, a very recent research that is happening as we speak.
Thank you, ma'am. And the last question.
One prayer, ma'am. Shall I? Jyoti.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Namaste, ma'am. Really, we feel so proud of you. Then one small question. It's a really very good, nice explanation, excellent explanation about that Neurosculpture, that using that masterpiece. At the same time, the tools of Neurosculpture is really excellent. But from my side, a general question, ma'am. A small question. Actually, we are in society. We have to adjust with the society. So as you said, the change your mind. I mean, by changing our mind, we can change our thoughts, feeling, and experience. Everything you said, okay. So in positive way, we are taking some decisions. Okay. Suppose by taking some decision or involving in some activities, if it is affecting other opposite person, how to face that situation, ma'am? You are correct. We are. Can you understand, ma'am? We are taking some decision in positive way by changing our mind. Everything is correct. Due to that reason, the opposite person getting some problem in that situation. How to face? That's my question.
That is not directly related to this. This involves a deeper analysis and understanding about the issue itself. We cannot talk in a general way because most of the talks when we give, it is going to be relating to us, to be able to make changes in our lives so that we can become better human beings. We can keep evolving. But the question is so general and vague, and the reply is also going to be vague. Yes, usually and ideally, what is good is to make decisions that will have a positive impact on many people. Sometimes it may not be, so we have to weigh the pros and cons. And this will help when we actually make a shift in the way we are looking at the situation itself, the way we are looking at that particular circumstance. That is why there is a saying which is very profound, saying if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. Sometimes it may not be as good short-term wise, but in the long term, it may be good even for the other person. Just like how we try to discipline in olden days, the way the kids used to be disciplined was in a very harsh way. And the parents believed in those times that being very harsh is good for the baby or the kid later on. So short term, it had negative consequences on the kid is what they believed, right? In the long term, they felt it may not have. So I'm not saying we should go back to the harsh ways and punishing. Absolutely not. I just took that as an example because of that belief system, what people had. So either we need to change our belief system, or sometimes even for us, short-term wise, it may not produce positive results, but we also have to look at long-term results.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, one last question, ma'am. How to choose visual content to prevent subjects from getting bored? Nitya Prada ma'am asked.
Can you repeat that question?
Yes, ma'am. How to choose visual content to prevent subjects from getting bored?
That is very personal. It depends on our experience, our likes, our dislikes, and whatnot. We may have to experiment many different ways of dealing with this, because especially when we are working in a group, like in a classroom, different people learn in different ways. We only know of learning one way, cognitive way. It is not. Some are visual learners, some are audio learners, some are kinesthetic, they need hands-on. So various different learners. So it is better to combine all of those to be able to learn. So it is a $1 million question. We need to keep on trying to figure out which is the best way so that it will attract everybody and not get bored. There is no simple answer. We need to keep on trying. Thank you.
Yeah, ma'am, actually, there are many questions coming out of the chat box and also our channel. I will send you all the questions to you to mail. Kindly answer us because we are running short of time. Now, over to Safika, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Sure.
I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose vote of thanks on this memorable occasion on behalf of the management. Let me, first of all, start by giving glory to the Almighty God for making this today's occasion a resounding success. And on behalf of Surana Parivar, my first and foremost thanks to our special chief guest, Dr. Usha Vastre, for accepting our invitation and for being with us this evening. Thank you, ma'am, for your interesting, thought-provoking, and highly informative speech. Next, my sincere thanks to our dynamic secretary, sir, Mr. Anand Suranaji, who always guide and motivate us to be positive in all the aspects of life. Thank you, sir. Next, my sincere thanks to our academic director, Jayanti Balachandran ma'am, for her encouragement, her able guidance, for always encourage us. I thank her for her kindness, her interest, and continued support. Thank you, ma'am. Next, I would like to thank our well-wisher, Principal Sir, Mr. Rosario, for his support, vision, guidance, and encouragement in all our efforts. I owe my special thanks, gratitude to all the distinguished teachers, colleagues, and invitees present here and accepting our invitation. I mention my deepest sense of gratitude and appreciation to all the viewers of your support. I'm very much thankful for motivated and dedicated Surana Tech team for making this event a successful and memorable. And my hearty thanks, I would like to thank all my students for your cooperation and making this occasion a resounding success. Finally, I would like to say Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshwaraha, Guru Shastra, Prabhamma, Tashmai Shri, Guruve Namaha. Once again, I thank you all. Happy Teachers' Day to all my digital teachers. Thank you all. Country is like a shelter for us with security and many more facilities. Thus, we need to give honor and respect our nation. So get ready for national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंग विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उज्ज्वल जलधि तरंग तव शुभ नामे जागे